You're listening to For the Republic, a love letter to Star Wars animation.
Hello there. Alright everyone, welcome to episode 3 of For the Republic, a love letter to Star Wars animation. Today, we are getting into our first big story arc of the Clone Wars. We're going to be talking the Malevolence arc. I am one of your co-hosts today, Andrew, and I am joined today by Don and Connor. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing pretty solid. Excited to talk about the Malevolence arc. I find it to always be for me at least, a super underrated arc, and I just don't know why. I just never really think about it too much. So
I really always think of it as the big first arc of the show, and then it just kind of disappears. But actually getting to sit down and really watch it with a critical eye for the first time in years was a really nice experience. Don, how are you today?
I'm doing great, man. Yeah, this was actually, again, like with the the previous 4 episodes that we covered, I actually had a lot more fun with this than I was expecting. I said just before we started recording, I wrote down way more notes for this than I was expecting to write, which is funny.
Yeah, that's always a treat. Jake could not be here today. He's off seeing Multiverse of Madness right now, so we hope he's having a great time. In terms of Star Wars news and experiences before we get into the actual episodes, first thing I want to talk about before we get into the big stuff, which was, of course, the Obi-Wan trailer, and then we had a couple announcements that are, very important and hit close to home for all of us. I was tweeting like mad the other night about Solo because I rewatched it again. And I can't tell you how much fun I have with that movie every time I watch it.
Same.
I think that it is, to me, easily the most underrated Star Wars movie. And I think in terms of rewatchability, it's up there with some of the best for me. I'm not saying it's a perfect movie, but the amount of fun I have with that movie is just off the charts good. And I would literally do anything for some type of continuation. I'm hoping that we're going to get something with the Lando series, but I don't know, guys. We're going to get announcements, and I'm not saying, I have nothing to confirm this or anything. This is just my suspicion, but I have a really good feeling that we might get something with Bryce Dallas Howard related to some type of solo project at Celebration or in the near future. I think it's very possible, and whether that's Kira showing up in something, or the Lando series officially getting announced that Glover's coming back, or we get Alden in something, I just really want to see these characters again, and I don't think a theatrical release is possible at this point, but I think something on Disney Plus, whether that be a film or a series or something, would be really cool, and I'm hoping we get something. But if not, we got Crimson Reign, which is kicking all sorts of ass right now. And I just want to see more.
Gotta read it.
I have to get into it, but I hear nothing but great things. And I just picked up, I sent this in our Discord server last night. I just picked up Charles Soule's Darth Vader run for the first time. I am so excited to read that, but that's going to be on my read list because I'm in the last couple chapters of Queen's Hope right now, which I'll talk about that on here when I finish it, and then I got to start Brotherhood, and I got that the other day, and that's a thick boy right there, so that might take me a while, but I'm very excited.
Yeah, the Darth Vader comics are a quality run, the ones by Charles Soule. I'm
Jake
3
said,
volumes in.
Jake said they're his favorite comic run of all time, and I know Alex from Star Wars Explained says that's his favorite comic run as well.
Oh, they go strong. Those comics,
So
I would argue
volume.
Right now,
argue that Soule's 2017 run is his magnum opus in terms of his Star Wars writing.
I've loved everything he's written that I've read. Light of the Jedi, I think, is a masterpiece. I really liked Rise of Kylo Ren, and I really liked the Anakin and Obi-Wan series, which is I all I've read from him as far as I'm aware. I do have
I
his
still need
Lando
to read the.
run, but I
I
haven't
do.
I
I need
haven't
to
gotten
read
around to
that.
it because everyone says that's great, and I've like
Yeah.
literally like had it in my hand ready to read, and I just have not gotten to there yet. So there's gonna come a point where I just binge all this stuff. But right now, I'd say Trail of Shadows is probably my favorite Star Wars comic at the moment. But I'm ready for that to get dethroned because I hear nothing but great things. Off the cuff question right here because I talked about Solo. I think it's a safe bet if this Lando series does still happen that Glover's going to be a part of it in some way, shape, or form. What would be your dream, quote unquote, Solo 2 project? Would it be a Crimson Dawn miniseries? Would it be a proper sequel? What would you like to see, or would you not like? Would you just be fine if some of the characters showed up in other series? Like I think if Enfys Nest doesn't show up in Andor, it's a missed opportunity. Um, but yeah, what do you guys think about that one?
Uh,
Uh, you go
my
first.
main thing is just Han and Chewie just doing Han and Chewie stuff,
I just
and Han just becoming that cynical person that we see at the beginning of A New Hope.
why did they why they should have just released it in December and it wouldn't have
I mean, they wanted
disappointed.
to.
I don't know why they didn't push it. The movie like
Disney. That's
yeah,
literally the only reason.
it's
I think, as far as I know.
it's not just the fact that it came out 6 months after Last Jedi. It's the fact that it came out 2 weeks after Infinity War and a week after Deadpool 2. So you
Yeah.
had the biggest releases of the summer right there. And then it's like, okay,
And you
here's this
have
Han Solo movie, which it's Star
with
Wars, so people are obviously going to see it, but it's not going to be. If you got to choose one movie this month, they're going to choose Infinity War. They're not going to choose Han Solo where it's not Harrison Ford, you know? But then the movie ends up being
exactly.
really great. So it's
Yeah.
just really disappointing. And if we
Yeah.
never
I mean, there is
see Amelia Clark as Kira again, I'm going to cry. But yeah.
that would be sad. Yeah. Like, I mean, if they had released it in December, there is the difficulty that it would have bumped up against Aquaman because that movie was just like a monster smash. But
Oh, yeah, I was still
like
working
it
at the
probably
theater at
would have
that point.
it would have
Yeah.
fared better, I think, in December. But yeah, I think Amelia Clark's great, and I'd love to see more of her as Kira. I was really hoping she would show up in the Book of Boba Fett, and it's why I've got a really slim hope for a series 2 of Book of Boba Fett, so we could like because like someone's got to be like kind of like the Pikes have got to be answering to someone. So like, wouldn't that be a natural place to bring Kira into play? You know, like have her show up and like Boba Fett's got to kind of like contend with her now because he disrupted her spice trade. That would be a pretty cool way to do that.
I mean, I was
I'm
holding
most-
out for weeks that she'd be the post-credit scene in the finale and end up being
So,
Cobb Vanth, but I think that's possible. One more thing I want to say. I think one thing that we are for sure going to get is Dryden Voss in Bad Batch season 2 because they made his model for the Martez sisters arc in Clone Wars for one scene, and it was like I feel like it's coming. I just feel like
Yeah.
they wouldn't just make it for that one scene.
I thought it was for Siege of Mandalore.
It was the last episode of the Martez sister because when the Pikes were talking to Maul and Ahsoka was spying on him, if I remember correctly,
Oh,
and he was like, "Okay,
He
the Syndicate
appears-
has to go into hiding again," and
Yes,
Dryden
and they
was
all-
there with
yeah.
Black Sun and the Pikes and all them.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Well, because the Bad Batch have already encountered the Pikes, and there's kind of like this sense at the end of that episode that there's they're going to get dragged into like more criminal stuff, especially given that their association with I forget the Trandoshan who they were associated with.
Sid.
Sid, exactly. Their association with Sid, they're probably going to get pulled into more criminal gotcha business, and you know, it would make sense eventually for them to deal with like someone like Dryden Voss and probably even Darth Maul. Like, it
Yeah.
wouldn't shock me to see Maul make an appearance and like get some scenes with him and Dryden interacting, given the implication of their relationship in Solo.
Yeah, and
yeah.
like, I don't know if you'd voice him, but Paul Bettany is so goddamn good in that movie. So I just
I mean,
want to
they
see
got
more
Liam
of him.
Neeson. They got Liam Neeson to voice
They
Qui-Gon
did, yeah.
in the Clone Wars, so
Yeah,
it would just
Liam.
make sense
Oh,
to
I
get.
don't think I'll ever do TV. I won't do TV shows.
Yeah,
Neeson.
okay.
Like, bro,
All right.
come on. You're basically confirming you're in Obi-Wan. Like,
He's
this is
pulling the Garfield in No Way Home. Like,
no, yeah, but like, it's not like I'm not convinced.
I'm not
Whereas
convinced
with
at all.
Garfield,
Whatever,
I kind of
whatever,
was.
Liam. We'll see you in the finale. We'll see you in the finale when Kenobi gets back to Tatooine.
All right,
Yeah,
what
he'll
was your
probably be in
point,
like.
Connor? Before I
Oh no, I don't know if anyone remembers this, but I think it was like the day after Solo came out, a Boba Fett film was announced, and I think James Mangold was attached to direct it, and then like it got canceled like a few months later
I
because of
remember
Solo's
that, yeah.
failure.
I think there
Yep.
was like they wanted Michael B. Jordan as Boba Fett or something, which
I don't remember that. What? Oh my
I
God,
could have
Google it now.
sworn I saw that either
I
for the Josh Trank Boba Fett movie or this one.
I know there's nothing about Michael B. Jordan.
Did I make that up?
You probably did,
I could have
but
sworn
apparently.
I saw it.
Yeah,
But
apparently Mangold was attached to write and direct it with Simon Kingberg attached as producer and co-writer, but both Mangold and Cake and Kennedy subsequently denied Mangold's involvement.
and then they announced the Kenobi movie with Stephen Daldry directing it, and then that
Yep.
Yeah,
And then
quickly turned
Hosanna Mini
into
writing it.
the show we're
Which-
going to be getting in a couple of weeks.
Hosanna Mini is getting a story by credit, if I remember correctly.
yes.
Which really intrigues me because, like, I wonder how much of his stuff, how much of his original script actually got into the final product.
Well,
You know what's really funny? Joby Harold got announced as the new writer on my birthday in like 2020. So if the Kenobi series is really good, and I mean really good, that will be one of my top 5 retroactive birthday presents.
yeah, that's a birthday present for you right there. I mean, the original
Yeah,
scripts,
absolutely.
I remember them being like they scrapped them because they were too similar to Mando
The
season
Mandalorian.
1.
Yep.
So I'm kind
And then,
of
like,
glad
everyone was like, "Oh,
retroactively that they
Yeah.
changed
I
course.
don't know.
Especially
I'm
because
glad
it
too.
looks so good right now. But
Oh, it looks so good, especially with that new trailer that dropped not so long ago.
I mean, I was gonna segue into Fallen Order, but I think we should just talk about Kenobi right now.
Yeah, we gotta
Uh,
talk. Yeah, they're set in the same time period.
Yeah.
Fortress Inquisitorius is in both, so like,
I mean, this trailer, man, it was. I was kind of that was the one thing I was expecting on May the 4th is okay, we'll get something Kenobi related, and then whatever else we get is going to be a treat. My like the smallest bit of hope I had that they would just surprise drop Bad Batch season 2, or at least the
that would
premiere.
be freaking hilarious.
They didn't. But I was
Yeah.
hoping that maybe they do something like that. But of course, that didn't happen. But we instead got this just amazing Kenobi trailer. It was a bit shorter than the first one, I believe. But I mean, I'm not complaining. I'm not. The less you reveal here, the better, in my opinion.
Oh yeah,
First of
Like
all,
they haven't even shown him with his lightsaber
no, they
as
haven't.
well.
We've
Like,
seen it
that's
in
gonna be a
promo art.
jaw-dropping moment in the show.
I don't think we're gonna
cannot wait.
get it for the first few episodes. Honestly,
Oh no, I know.
because
We're not-
Unless he
I
has a
feel like-
blaster.
we're
I
seeing,
feel like we're not gonna get it until like the last 2 episodes or something.
the build
Well,
up
see,
will be insane.
it's interesting you say that because like so just like the day that we're recording this, like Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen and Moses Ingram all appeared on the One show, which is a show here in the UK, and like Ewan and Moses kind of let something slip that they trained together, like during like regarding fight choreography, which basically kind of suggests that Obi-Wan is actually going to like fight the Inquisitors as well as Vader. Like he's not just going to be running from them. There's going to be some saber combat. So I do kind of wonder if that's like if it is going to be saved for the last couple episodes and he really is going to use like a blaster for the first 4, or if the saber combat is going to be kind of like stretched out, like used intermittently through the series as kind of like big fireworks moment, if you will.
Yeah, I just
I
really
at
hope we don't
least
see
think
him
we'll
make
I
go
love
the
that he has a
first
blaster.
episode or two without seeing one because we know, judging by the fact that the Black Series figure has the blaster with him, I'm assuming that's going to be something he has with him for most of the series. Which, by the way, I forgot I have to pre-order that. So I just spent, I can't tell you how much on eBay for the uh, Clone Wars Anakin and Obi-Wan Black Series figures. Jake would be upset with
Whoa.
me, but I I had to do it. I just had to.
Those costumes are too cool not to
This
own.
pre-ordering will be available on approximately January 1st, 2023. Now, what the hell?
What the
Why
hell is that?
why are you waiting 8 months or however long that's going to be after the show comes out to release your
Damn it.
merch? I don't get that.
Oh.
Marvel literally drops Moon Knight merch the day the episode comes out, and then there's this
Yeah.
shit. I just
Yeah.
Lucasfilm, what are you doing? If Jake was
Get
here,
your act
I'd
together,
get him on his
Lucasfilm.
soapbox and have him rant for
Oh
30
yeah, no,
minutes.
yeah.
But
Um,
we'll have to save that. This trailer, though, I am so excited. First of all, I think the one thing that everyone has been talking about is the scene with Kenobi and Owen Lars.
oh
The,
my
like he trained his
god,
father.
Owen Lars.
The
Dude.
Owen Lars,
absolute
what,
gut punch.
dude? I don't know
Owen
if that's
Lars is
more.
the
I don't know
master
if
of
that's
sass.
actually. You know what? No, I think in terms of brutality with jokes, because like, okay, Don hasn't gotten to episode 2 yet, so I can't say the one joke that happens in Lego Skywalker Saga that I want to say, but I would say that joke is a bit more brutal than Owen Lars's like you trained his father.
Whoa. Okay,
You'll see why, Don. I think you know. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, Andrew.
I just finished
next
Attack of the
episode.
Clones the other day in that game, but I'm trying to remember.
It was on Geonosis.
I need to finish episode. I'm still need to finish episode 1. So like next time we record this, I'm probably gonna have like got to that moment. So we'll be able to mention it, bring it up. Hopefully, like
It's
segue the
escaping my
conversation.
mind right now. I know there's one with Mace and Anakin that is I died laughing for about 5 minutes when I heard it
It's
in a video.
one with Padme.
Oh,
That's
okay.
all I'll say.
Okay,
Okay.
I gotta go back and
Yeah.
watch. But that was just I was like, damn. And also the hindsight casting there of George Lucas casting Joel Egerton as Owen Lars back in 2002 is just paying off so much here because now he's just a world class actor, and
Yep.
it's so great that he's back in this role. I'm very interested in seeing the tense relationship between the two of them because we can very much tell at this point that he wants Obi-Wan to have nothing to do with his family, and
Yeah.
especially
I really
once
hope there's a reference or two to their confrontation in the
The Jason Aaron series.
Yeah, the
doesn't
Jason
he
Aaron
deck him
comic
in the
run.
face like during that run?
Oh no,
I-
he doesn't deck him in the face, but he shouts at him. There's like it's a more of an outburst.
There's a line that
Owen-
literally he
Owen's
says
just
like,
straight
"Haven't you
up.
killed enough Skywalkers already, Kenobi?" or
Ooh.
something like that. And it's just
Owen
like,
Lars.
Brutal.
Bro.
Owen Lars truly is the master of sass.
yeah, he's the master of the roast, but you know
And
we
then
all know how that turned
Got
out.
roasted himself.
Yep.
It's ironic. He could
ironic.
roast.
He could roast others, but not himself or
himself.
something. I can't. There's a joke someone made
Yeah.
online. I can't
Yeah,
remember.
definitely.
Yeah.
Just to say about this trailer, I love that Obi-Wan now has a blaster, even if it means that he'll refrain from using his lightsaber. Because I love the comparison now to Rey and to Luke Skywalker, because both of those characters also use blasters in addition to having a lightsaber. I just love that rhymes aesthetically with those two characters.
So
As
much
Yeah,
just
as we're
symbolized.
out here being the fucking pimp with the lightsaber blaster.
True, Ezra Bridger as well. Let's not forget him. Also, I have to point out that there is definitely going to be some action on Fortress Inquisitorius. There's a shot in the trailer where you can see Reva deflecting blaster fire, and it's clearly set on Fortress Inquisitorius. So the finale, I get the sense the finale is going to go there.
And
I
we get
really
new
hope so.
Purge Trooper design.
Yes, and
Yeah.
I really want Obi-Wan. I just want Obi-Wan to like sneak around Fortress Inquisitorius and just like mess it up from the inside, like he did with the Death Star.
I was
That's
gonna
just like,
say, you know what else we got? We got Purge Troopers, which Connor must have been losing his mind.
I actually wasn't. I was just like so engrossed into the trailer that like I didn't really notice them until after the fact, and I was like, "Oh crap, we have new Purge Trooper designs," and everyone was saying how they look similar to the Sovereign Protectors from Rise of Skywalker, and I'm like, so basically, we're getting new Purge Troopers in the new Jedi game. Sweet.
Pretty much. And then
Speaking
the
of
ending
which,
with Reva, with the you can't escape
yeah,
him
you
and then
can't
the Vader
escape him.
breathing.
chills, man, chills.
Do you
Ugh.
think the Vader fight is going to be on Mustafar again, or do you think it's going to be on Nur?
I don't. I think it's gonna be on Nur.
I think it is going to be on Nerd because the concept art kind of shows a facility in flames, which is why I think Obi-Wan is going to like take down Fortress Inquisitorius and
It'd be
Vader
really
is going to
freaking
fight him
funny
in
to
the like.
me if Obi-Wan finishes what Cal started. It would be really freaking funny to me.
Well,
Two red-haired Jedi.
I mean, as a
destroy-
win for Obi-Wan, that would be amazing. Like that he takes down this like thing that Vader has used to like Vader and the Emperor are using to like corrupt the remains of the Jedi. It would just be a really nice kind of like little victory to kind of give Obi-Wan after all the loss he's been through, because you got to have some hope with all of the like desolation that like follows the prequel trilogy, because like I mean that's the tagline, you know, between death and
between
defeat,
darkness and defeat, hope survives.
hope survives.
Which
That's
reminds
it.
me, I still haven't watched Revenge of the Sith, but I'm probably gonna save that until like the last few days before Kenobi.
I watched that May the 4th, and
Nice.
still
The
hits
feels.
every single time. One last question about the Kenobi trailer before we move on. We talked about, you know, when we think his lightsaber is going to show up. How long do you think it's going to be until we see Vader for the first time in the show? Do you think first
I would
episode? Do you think
think-
end of the second episode or something like that?
I think end of the third, begin into middle of the fourth.
I was going to say the same thing. Yeah, it just makes sense.
I don't
'Cause
think
you don't
we'll
want
see
to like.
Hayden himself until the last episode, but or at least him like without the mask on.
In present day, yeah. Because I
Yeah.
feel like we're gonna get Clone
I
Wars
think we'll get
flashbacks.
Clone Wars flashbacks first or second episode. It wouldn't
Like I think
shock
there's going
me
to be at
if
least one.
the show begins Book of Boba Fett style and it starts with a Clone Wars flashback. That would not surprise me at all.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, like just you literally start with like this really bombastic action sequence. You know, they're joking, they're doing their kind of like brotherly banter together, and then you cut to Obi-Wan like waking up alone in the desert. It's just like instant heartstring pulls. Like that'd be really cool. I think we'll at least get one flashback. I'm hoping we will, because yeah, like I want to be like amazed and like excited again, but also like kind of like have my heart broken all over again, because
Yeah.
that's the life of a prequel fan. It's like excitement, but also lots of pain.
There are only 4 cameos I'm really hoping for. Like, I'm hoping we're not cameo overload here in this series, but it's Ahsoka, Qui-Gon, Padme, and Satine. And anything else, I don't want. Those are the 4 I am hoping for. And I think we're going to get 3 of them. So
Yeah,
We're bound to get.
we're getting
Ahsoka and
we're
Qui-Gon.
getting Qui-Gon. Like, I will bet money on
Dude,
that.
we're getting Qui-Gon.
Ahsoka, I think
We're-
we'll get, whether or not it's Rosario, I'm not sure. And
there's
I'm
probably gonna be
fairly
a band-
confident we're
I
getting
mean-
Padme, whether it's archive footage or Natalie Portman actually comes back.
Oh, that'd be
Satine is
amazing.
the one where I'm like, I don't know. If it's at least a mention, I'll cry.
Same.
But
I'll be emotional
I will
when
start
Satine
convulsing
mentions-
and it'll be bad. But yeah, Obi-Wan Kenobi drops in, what is it, 2 weekends now?
Yeah.
Start a celebration.
From the
I'll
time-
be
from the
on.
time we recorded, which is Thursday, May 12th. It drops in 15 days.
I'll be out of town, so
Yeah,
cannot
you're gonna
wait.
be where I'm at.
Yeah, so I'll have to figure out when I'm gonna get to watch it, but we'll definitely be covering Obi-Wan and
Or what we could do, Andrew, is we watch it together.
we'll have to see. We'll have to see. I am
2
so
episodes,
excited.
especially.
Yeah,
There's
dude,
double
like-
the
So
excitement.
excited.
In other Jedi news, we got a
Here we
leaked
go.
title for the Fallen Order sequel. It is called Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I'm excited. Yeah.
Do you
It's apparently coming.
Do you think this means that we're not going to have the same cast of characters?
No, I think it's going to be a direct sequel.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Well,
I just think we're going to my gut feeling is we're probably going to play as more characters other than Cal. Like, I would not be shocked if we played as at least Seer and Cal, or at most, hopefully, Seer, Marin, and Cal.
That's what I'm hoping for. I'm really hoping for Marin, at least. I was actually hoping that we could get that at the end of Fallen Order 1, because my one complaint with that game is there's this great arc of getting Marin a part of the crew, and then she just kind of sits in the Mantis for the rest of the game. So I wish
I mean, to be
she had-
fair, all the crew does that, which is kind of disappointing.
Yeah, so I wish she had more of a role after that, but there are very few complaints. I mean, not as hardcore as you, but I love Fallen Order, and I am very excited for this game to come. And there's got to be something. I mean, they've probably already announced a panel for Celebration, but there's
there's
sure
not.
going to be.
So
Something.
they said apparently there's reports that like it won't have a dedicated panel at Celebration, but it will make an appearance. At what panel? I don't know.
I don't know which
my
one.
My best guess would be the Lucasfilm Studio Showcase, but like
Does
I
Lucasfilm Games have a panel, or
nope.
I went
game.
through it.
There's no
It doesn't.
dedicated gaming panel.
because when I
I
went
literally
to
went to the panel. Yeah, it
Chicago,
doesn't.
there was a Vader Immortal and a Fallen Order panel. Or was Vader Immortal Orlando? I don't remember. But there was a full-on panel for it, which was just fantastic. So I thought we'd get the same thing for 2, but I guess not. Either way, I'm very excited. Like with you, I hope it's a direct sequel. I like the title. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't keep the Fallen Order name, but it looks like they're keeping the name of the series is Star Wars Jedi, which I always forget.
Which doesn't surprise me, because I'm really, really, really hoping this is like this has to be an anthology game series.
Yeah.
This has to be. I feel like once they're done telling the story of Cal and his crew, they're just gonna move on to other eras, and it's just gonna be phenomenal. Because I swear to God, if I get a High Republic Jedi game, I'm gonna lose it.
I
just
think
gonna
we'll get
combust.
some
Wow.
High
I
Republic
didn't even
connections
thought of
in
that.
this game, probably.
I hope so.
I
That'd be
think
so
we'll
cool, like,
probably see
is
another.
Defo?
Cal will probably encounter another Jedi on the run as well. I think that would be very cool. And
Yeah.
depending on where the timeline of this game is, we could see some connections with Kenobi or some of the anthology movies. I think
Yeah,
would
I
be
hope
very
there's
cool.
I hope there's some time in between the first and second game for reasons obvious to you two, but not everyone else.
Because Fallen Order is what, 5 years after Revenge of the Sith?
Yeah.
And
And Kenobi is 10.
10, yeah.
Yeah.
So anything is possible, but I'm very excited. And then one last thing, which we can talk about real quick, because before we get into Clone Wars, because this is a love letter to Star Wars animation, we did get the confirmation, kind of a new animated anthology series. We've known that this Tales of the Jedi project has been coming for quite some time, but it was leaked and then I think confirmed once again to be a panel at Celebration. We know Dave Filoni is involved in some way, shape, or form. Shocker, I know. But it sounds like it's going to be an animated anthology series. Each episode will hopefully tell a different story of a different Jedi. Hopefully we'll get some multiple different eras and characters. Hopefully some new ones. Definitely some returning favorites. Let's just leave it at this.
It'll be
What do you-
brutal.
What was that, sorry?
It'll be really brutal
What?
if they show the fate of the gathering Padawans in one of the Tales of the Jedi.
Oh, you
episodes.
asshole.
Oh,
No.
oh,
Anakin just killing
Oh.
Katuni. Don't
No,
you dare.
no, No, I don't.
No.
No.
We haven't even got to those guys yet.
Katuni becoming an Inquisitor.
No,
Oh, don't.
no,
That's
no, and
awful.
no,
That's
unmanifest.
No,
Just-
yeah, like just just get that
Why
away.
would you put that in my mind, sir?
I don't know. It just came to me.
So I
I'm
was gonna
sorry.
say, what is the big stories you'd like to see, but I guess you already answered that question. So Don, what would you
I was
like
I mean,
to
I have
see in
two.
this series?
I have two. I'd like to see a episode set during the High Republic, like maybe one that just like, has an episode about like Avar Chris or like Stellan Gios, those kind of characters. But ultimately, I actually kind of love it because this show is probably going to focus on established Jedi. We're going to probably get one during the Clone Wars, during the one about Luke, one
Hopefully, one
believe
of the
about Rey.
established Jedi they focus. Yeah, is Rey. Hopefully, one of them is Rey.
If I could pick one, I would kind of like them to do at least one episode about like a different era of the Jedi that we haven't seen. Like, maybe one that kind of draws inspiration from the, like the Dawn of the Jedi comics that were from Legends, because I've started reading those, and they are bonkers, those comics. The John Ostrander Legends comics. They're completely nuts. And I'd love to see an episode that drew on that, or like just a different era, like maybe towards like the start of the formation of the Republic, or even some old Republic stuff. But yeah, I mean, yeah, as you can probably tell,
Yeah.
the sky's the limit with this show, which is what I'm excited about, and I hope it's kind of like Marvel's What If show, where we maybe get like more than one season, so you have like different episodes. You have a multitude of episodes to like focus on different eras and characters, because like the Jedi are such a fertile source of like excitement and like storytelling potential for me.
I think it's kind of cool that we're having two anthology series going on at once with this and Visions, assuming that season 2 report that came out a while ago ends up being true, because we haven't really heard anything since then. Hopefully that's another Celebration announcement. But the one thing that I am excited about, if you know me, Jedi Finn and Rey, please, just please. That's what I want. But literally anything else, like I said, more prequel content would be great. High Republic stuff, some Firebrand stuff would be awesome. I'm just at literally anything. I am very much excited, but if I could have one story, it would be Finn and his training. But I feel like they might save that for a bigger project, but if not, I would at least like one episode. We don't know how long these episodes are going to be. We don't know how many episodes the show is going to have. Hopefully we get some of these questions answered at Celebration, and hopefully we get some type of release date as well. But I'm very excited for this. This sounds awesome, and any more animated Star Wars content that gets announced, I am excited about. But with that, I think it's time we segue into the episodes we will be talking about today, which are the Malevolence arc, which was the first big story arc in the Clone Wars. The Republic going up against Grievous's massive warship. The first episode was titled Rising Malevolence, directed by Dave Filoni, his first directorial effort of the series. Written by Stephen Melching, who I believe wrote all 3 episodes of the arc. Checking my notes, yes he did. The moral of the episode is belief is not a matter of choice, but of conviction. Another thing I just want to point out real quick is we still, for all of these episodes, have that weird early version of the Clone Wars fanfare that we had for the first couple episodes.
Dude, it's so weird.
I don't like it.
I'm not used to it.
I'm like,
Yeah,
ugh.
it's a little off.
Season 1.
It just makes
Yeah.
me like think like, oh, something's up with my speakers. I'm like, why is like, what's the audio? But then I'm like, oh no, it's just unfinished at this point.
I kind of like it because it kind of reflects season 1 as a whole. Because I think more than any other series of the Clone Wars, series 1 is definitely finding its feet and its identity, kind of like Ahsoka Tano in a way.
Ah, that's a good comparison there. We do see Ahsoka for the first time of the series itself, not just the film, which was nice. And a lot of this episode focuses on the backstory and the relationship between Ahsoka and Plo Koon, which I have been waiting to get into because it is one of my favorite things in this series. I adore the relationship. But one thing I don't adore is this freaking still awful early Ahsoka design that George, what are you doing? But aside from that, I thought, starting with Plo Koon, which is one of my favorite Clone Wars Jedi because of this series. I love everything about him, and getting his wolf pack against Dooku and Grievous was a great way to start the episode. And I loved the orange reddish hues of the planet, kind of adding that red tint to the battle, the space battle. Really cool visuals there. And then way the secret weapon, the ion cannon, was introduced was just absolutely terrifying. And all three of these episodes to me I was shocked how good of a job they did at making the Malevolence seem as threatening as possible. Which
I love the design of the I love
the Malevolence is
cool shit.
Great.
I could
Such
go
a
on
unique
pages about the reveal of the Malevolence, like you said about like the red, the sinister kind of hue it gives it. I love that it has like a freaking shark mouth in its design. Yeah. It looks like some kind of like predatory creature, like with the mouth, and like even the ion cannon kind of forms like an eye. It just feels like it's a cruiser version of a shark. Literally, because it's literally just like disabling ships and just like taking them apart. And the reveal shot of it against the moon kind of reminded me of like 2D animation in a way. Just the look of it, like it kind of gave me vibes of Gennady Tarkovsky's Clone Wars series in the best possible way.
That's a really good point. I like that.
Yeah,
a lot.
I like the shark. I like the shark thing. That I never really thought about. But like, the red moon, absolutely gorgeous.
I just noticed it on my like latest viewing of the show, and like I like how, because this is obviously like an analog for the Death Star, because they had to do it. They had to have at least one storyline that kind of channeled the concept of the Death Star like this like, instead of a planet killer, you have like a fleet killer ship. And like just in case like the comparison wasn't there, like it wasn't clear to people, they literally recreate the shot of like the super laser, only this time it's like the ion cannon firing, and you've got the two little battle droids in the in the bay, just like also cowering at the beam going off. Just great. Also, the battle droid humor in this, I know some people don't like it. I love it.
There is one later in the episode that I will definitely get to. That
there's a battle droid that does an evil laugh. Like it goes. It is the funniest goddamn thing. I laughed out loud when I heard it because it's just. It's like they seem so like they're so comical that just hearing one of them try and act evil is just hilarious to me.
Matthew Wood, man, he just does such a good job as the battle droids. It's like D. Bradley Baker with the clones. I mean, I don't think Wood gets enough credit here of just making the battle droids
I don't think he does.
as humorous as possible.
Matthew Wood as the battle droids is very underrated throughout the show.
Speaking of Matthew Wood, I can't tell you when I was a kid how excited I was that he was Grievous again in the series. Because I remember when I was first watching, I was like, okay, well, these are all these characters, but I mean, it's not the actors from the movies. But then seeing and hearing Matthew Wood back as Grievous, I remember being really excited. And it's like, okay, this isn't just, some other just random side Star Wars series that doesn't matter. Like, this is still Star Wars. So it was nice having that connection. Even though this is my cancelable Star Wars take here, guys. I've never been a Grievous guy. I don't like General Grievous.
Wow. That is interesting.
I don't think he's a bad character. I just think he's a very disappointing character. Because you introduce him in Tartakovsky's Clone Wars, and he is just this silent killer, completely threatening. And then he's got asthma in Revenge of the Sith, and he gets taken out fairly easily. And then in Clone Wars, I liked him more, but I just always found him irritating, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's kind of like...
He's cool, but like... it'll
Yeah.
always be like a Captain Phasma scenario with me, where my expectations were just way too high, and it's forever tarnished my enjoyment of the character.
Well, I
That's
mean,
that's a fair point. I
Dooku
think
and Grievous kind of are in the same boat of they feel like Saturday morning cartoon villains, and they're not, and their characters aren't really reflective of that.
I
So
like
it's kind
Dooku
of
a
weird.
lot though, so I think it's just a
Dooku gets
Grievous thing
some.
here.
I think Dooku gets some like he gets some light and shade in like some later episodes as well. Grievous stays pretty consistent in his character throughout the show,
No, don't get me
and I
wrong.
think that's yeah.
Grievous,
But like I was gonna
there are a lot of
say,
cool
like
moments, but I'll never call him my favorite character.
no, and I completely get that because like it's like Gennady Tarkovsky's series kind of looked at Grievous as kind of like being more like a scalpel, like really precise. And George definitely had a different vision of Grievous. He saw him more like a sledgehammer, like just a brute really, who just like favors physical force because he's like. I mean, we'll get into this when we talk more about like episodes like Grievous Intrigue and Lair of Grievous because they are interesting. But I totally get what you're saying because I had the same kind of like whiplash going from like the very intimidating version in the 2D Clone Wars and then getting this version who is very much like a brute, like, very kind of like very kind of like messy and kind of incompetent at points and just like he's only really kind of like good for physical violence. He's not the best strategist. He kind of needs Dooku to help him along in places. Like that's why Dooku's there for the first episode. It's like there's a moment at the end of the first episode where Grievous is like, "Oh, the Republic will now learn of our ion cannon," and Dooku just gives him this look like, "You think?"
Yeah, it's like
Like,
way to state the obvious. Like,
yeah,
Yeah, my favorite Grievous thing is the fact that George originally wanted Gary Oldman as General Grievous for Revenge of the Sith, but he couldn't because something related to George not being a part of the Directors Guild, like couldn't allow Oldman to be in the movie. But we got Matthew Wood at the end of the day, and I just think his depiction of Grievous is iconic. So
yeah.
it's a happy accident, I guess. But
Listen,
that's just weird thing about like if it was freaking Sirius Black as Grievous, that would be very weird. But like I mentioned, the introduction of the Malevolence was, I think, done perfectly. Seeing the ion cannon just hit all the ships and just take out the entire fleet. The visual of seeing the Star Destroyers just exploding and crashing down through like the windows of Plo's destroyer, I thought was beautiful. And I thought it was a great way to really introduce this threat. And especially at the beginning of the episode, once the council is discussing things and they're kind of coming to terms that Plo's forces may have been lost, you can just tell through this conversation how much Plo means to Ahsoka, whether it's her speaking out without giving permission to the council, whether it's just the looks on her faces and the emotion that she has during this scene. It's very powerful, and it's great to see right off the bat this great development between Ahsoka and Plo, and we get a little bit more of her backstory in this episode, and of course we get more throughout the series as well. I've just always loved their relationship, and it's great to give it a little spotlight in these early episodes.
agreed. I think really like. I think really what is really impressive to me with the first two episodes of Clone Wars, like release order wise, is that like with Ambush, you get this moment and these little arcs of Yoda telling the clones like what each of their strengths are, and that like in the Force they're all the same, but also they're all unique. And then we get that line, just the beautiful line of "We're just clones, sir. We're meant to be expendable." And then Plo Koon says, but not to me."
Not to me. Beautiful.
Like it shows how some of these Jedi view the clones as more than just like disposable people.
I think
They view
it's
them as people.
like the scene with Yoda and the clones in Ambush. I think it's one of the early iconic scenes of the series, really showing the dedication to making these clones as individual and important as possible, really getting rid of the faceless warrior persona that they had in the prequels themselves. And moments like that, I think, have always stuck with me, whether or not I am the biggest fans of the episodes or not. Not to say I didn't enjoy the episode because I really liked this episode, but whether or not like I revisited those episodes more than other ones, that has always been a scene that has stuck with me since I started watching the series. And I absolutely adore moments like that and just how much Plo cares about the Wolfpack. Also seeing Commander Wolf for the first time, which was great to see. But another thing I wanted to point out after Ahsoka speaks out against the Council, I could not, and there was a lot of parallels in these episodes to the prequels and the original trilogy, which I really liked. But that lecture that Anakin gave to Ahsoka was just the spitting image of Obi-Wan and Anakin in Attack of the Clones. And I think it was very intentional that way. You're really seeing the early stages of Anakin and Ahsoka as Master and Apprentice. And we have Ahsoka kind of speaking out, having, you know, her strong emotions that aren't quite contained. I really enjoyed scenes like those. And we got a lot of great Ahsoka and Anakin moments in this arc as well, which mainly in the next episode, which we'll be getting to. But another great Plone quote, like the one that we just talked about, was I value your life more than finding that weapon. And again, I love Plo Koon, man.
It just makes Plo's story more tragic. It just does.
Now, of course, we got to figure out who directed this episode. Dave Filoni. There we go. Because Plo Koon is his favorite character, and seeing him get these Wolfpack clones, and it's Plo that has this relationship with his baby in a way, being Ahsoka Tano. It all starts to make sense, but I think it's just some great stuff there. Another thing that I was shocked about was how dark this episode got, specifically when they were looking out into space and after they had all gotten into the escape pods and they see the dead clones hanging out of the escape pod. I was shocked watching that. Because
I always remembered this as like a pretty dark episode, but it really doesn't hit me how dark it is until I watched it, especially with that moment where Plo Koon turns the pod around and there's dead clone troopers in it, and then the other moment where they see the other pod get hijacked by droid hunters and just shot.
That was
brutal.
It's absolutely brutal. This was one of the first shows on Cartoon Network to be given a PG rating, and they really went all out with it. Like, honestly, like, I didn't remember it being this dark when I was growing up and watched these first couple episodes. But man, I was like, that's pretty heavy for a show that was on Cartoon Network in the late 2000s. So you had a lot of kids watching this, and it's like, oh look, dead clones just hanging out of the escape pod, you know, caught in the vacuum of space. But those droid hunters were, again, a common theme I'm using for this episode. They were terrifying. We just talked about them getting, like, cut out of the escape pod, which was great. Absolutely terrifying. I was like, holy shit. And then the droids with the, oh, there they go, right afterwards. And then I started dying laughing. I'm like, talk about a mood whiplash. But I thought it
dark
really
humor
worked.
at that
It's
moment.
Such dark humor.
Yeah.
Just seeing them like get their life literally sucked out of them, and then that right afterwards. This episode, man, got me in many ways.
Like it's the second episode, and we're already getting moments like that. Yeah,
More than I was expecting.
FYI, I've been trying to make like points throughout, and my mic like literally failed.
Oh, no.
I've just got a spare. But like I was gonna say about Plo, because I agree with everything you were saying about like Plo and how he values the the life of the clones above finding the weapon. He's the anti-Pong Krell. He
Yeah.
he he cares so deeply, and like you said, it's what makes his eventual fall in Revenge of the Sith all the more tragic. I
The
was gonna say about Ahsoka as well before we moved on, because I also think the dynamic between them is really lovely and endearing, and it helps endear us to Plo as a character. Like it means we feel as strongly about him as Dave Filoni feels about him, because he's basically he makes in that little detail that Plo brought Ahsoka to the temple. It kind of makes Plo Ahsoka's Qui-Gon, because he's like the father figure to Ahsoka, whereas Anakin is like the older brother, just like Obi-Wan was to Anakin. It's like
Oh, dead.
I love how he's like how Dave Filoni has like managed to like find a way to like rhyme with the trajectory of the prequels, like with one of his like personal favorite characters. It's just really cool.
it's some really good stuff. Speaking of really good stuff, we got more classic Obi-Wan sass here. When Obi-Wan is, I believe he's talking to Yularen, and he goes, Anakin has just redeployed himself again.
Again.
Just
Again.
beautiful. I
Like the
love
weariness in
that
Obi-Wan's voice.
magnificent bastard.
Yeah, like I was gonna say as well, the smirk on Obi-Wan's face when Anakin is like reprimanding Ahsoka, when Ahsoka speaks out of turn during the council meeting, and Obi-Wan just has this grin on his face, like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's how it feels,
Wonder,
Anakin.
wonder where I've seen that before. Beautiful stuff. Anakin and Ahsoka defy orders as always. They're going out looking for Plo and his clone troopers. We get more of their backstory together because Anakin asks him like, "How do you know Master Plo?" Which I'm like, oh, that hasn't gotten brought up once. All right, that's kind of cool. But we find out that Plo was the one that found Ahsoka and brought her to the Jedi Temple, which is one of the defining moments of her character. And again, I love this kind of father and daughter relationship they have. You made a great parallel to Qui-Gon and Anakin in Phantom Menace. And while we don't see it as much there, it's always great when we see those moments. And every time Plo calls her little Ahsoka, my heart melts. It's just the purest thing in the world. And I love Plo Koon. And I have this show to thank for it because, I mean, I thought he was cool looking in the prequels, but he was a definition of a background Jedi. But Dave Filoni's love for this obscure character made him one of the most compelling Jedi to me in this series. And I have nothing but good things to say.
Plo Koon, King Jedi.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's something.
Straight facts.
More great Obi-Wan sass, which I have to point out here, just the absolute like done with his shit that Obi-Wan has here with Anakin. The Anakin, where are you? Just
Anakin.
where
The weariness in James Arnold Taylor's voice is palpable.
Also, can I just point out James Arnold Taylor, Plo Koon and Obi-Wan. So having two, like I can hear it in the cadence. Like I can I can tell it's the same voice actor, but it's still because James Arnold Taylor to me just has that cadence to his voice where I can always tell it's him voicing a character. But he does a great job at making them so distinct and making them it not like to where it's not like distracting when they share scenes or anything. He does a great job with that, and I love his Plo Koon voice as well. It's very paternal, is a word I can use. It's very welcoming, very wholesome, and I very much enjoy it. Go ahead.
It's kind of Ian McKellen. It's kind of Ian McKellen-esque.
I never thought of that.
In a
that's
way.
a great.
Yeah, like because that's kind of the difference I think in with the two voices, because I think Taylor's kind of doing more of because it kind of befits Plo's more kind of grandiose status as a Jedi. And I love because this is like the first series. The animation's a little rougher, a little simpler in like some of the designs. They have to reuse assets. I love that they took the time to like put in the markings on Plo Koon's anti-ox mask that he wears, because that's like a thing that matters to like in the tradition of like the Keldor people that he's part of. Like each clan has like different markings on their mask to kind of signify their identity. And I just kind of know that Dave Filoni insisted that they include that, because they could have just had like a blank texture, but they instead chose to like put that level of detail into his appearance, and it just kind of makes him feel like this fuller character before you even see him do anything. And then he speaks, and you're like, "Whoa, this guy sounds amazing."
Yeah. Yeah. I again, Plo's Forces, I really love his clone pack. It's one of my favorite clone designs in the entire series. And I loved this action scene of them going out into space and defeating the pod hunter, working together. I thought was a really nice moment. And again, I just was really shocked how much this episode worked for me. The Council and Palpatine pissed that Anakin and Ahsoka abandoned their post. They're about to leave, but there's another really great moment where Ahsoka and Plo both sense each other through the Force. We see this a couple times with, I think we see it later in this arc with Anakin sensing Padme in the Malevolence itself. But this moment, again, really powerful, really worked for me. We had that Plo Koon quote, "We're just clones, sir, we're meant to be expendable, not to me," which is, again, the quote of the arc, I think.
Yep.
And another thing is just that Malevolence, every time they show it, that guy is, or the ship itself is just huge. And
Yeah.
every time they show it, they make it seem as threatening as possible. The Death Star comparisons are right there. And it doesn't feel though like they're just reusing things from the original trilogy, or we're reusing the storyline from the prequels. They have the nice homages, and it's like, okay, well, this is supposed to be a predecessor to this, but it works. And every time I was shocked how every time to me when they launched the ion cannon, every time I tensed up. And I was like, even though I knew, okay, Anakin's obviously going to survive, and Plo Koon and Ahsoka, they're all going to make it out. Every time I was like, oh, what's going to happen here? Because it had been a while since I'd seen these episodes. And that was... they did a really good job at making the Malevolence seem as intimidating and threatening as they possibly could. When they were trying to escape being detected by the Malevolence, they had to shut down power. Ahsoka had to shut down R2, which I'm sure R2 was very pleased about. But who fucks it up for everyone? The goddamn Medroid.
Yep.
And
stupid Medroids.
Stupid. You had to do it, man. You had to.
Just wanders in. He's like, oh, is there anything I can do to help?
Yeah.
Power yourself off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just the chase of Anakin's ship trying to outrun the ion cannon blast, and eventually them escaping, jumping to hyperspace. Dooku insistent that there is no witnesses to their ship, and just the disappointment that he has looking at Grievous. Again, I am shocked that Dooku just didn't just kill him right then and there. There are a couple moments in this arc where I'm just like, why don't you just kill him? Just kill him. Like,
and then it's like, oh wait, Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, hold on, we got to get to that point. Yeah. But I mean,
he's like, I knew I should have given this one to Ventress.
Yeah, by the end of this arc, Dooku is just done with him. There's a really nice Ahsoka and Anakin moment that ended this episode. We got a lot of those in this arc. I loved this episode. I thought it was a great start. I thought it was tense throughout. Like I said, way darker than I was expecting. Especially for, like we said, a late 2000s Cartoon Network show. The lengths that they went to at points, seeing the dead clones hanging out and getting sucked into space was really surprising to see again. And they really pulled no punches with making the Malevolence and the horrors of war seem as threatening as possible. And I like that, even though this is technically a kid show, quote unquote, they never needed to feel like they had to dumb the show down or insult the audience's intelligence. If they had a good story to tell, they had a good story to tell, and this was no exception. I was a really big fan of this episode, and I haven't seen this one since, I believe, my second watch of the show back in 2015. So it has been a very long time, but I was very pleasantly
Wow.
surprised.
Yeah, I agree with that. I knew it was good, but I had a much this is probably the best experience I've had watching the whole episode. It was really cool, surprisingly tense and dark, like you said. It's had some lovely character stuff with Anakin, Ahsoka, and even Obi-Wan, and of course Plo Koon. And there were like some things that even caught me off guard, like the editing that's employed when Ahsoka senses Plo Koon, which, by the way, is a great like callback or call forward to like Leia sensing Luke on
Yeah.
in Cloud City and Empire Strikes Back. It's
Yep.
the editing. It's so sharp that it totally threw me, and I was like, "Whoa, that's really unexpected."
Yeah, I made
And
the Padme
the,
connection, but that's an even better one. It literally just hit me right before you said. I'm like, wait, hold on, that's Leia and Luke in Empire, and then you said it
yeah,
right there. Yeah, just great stuff.
and the ending shot of Ahsoka just joining Anakin in the hangar bay and the two of them just looking out to space with R2. That is just one of my all-time favorite ending shots in the whole show. I love it. It epitomizes that era of the show, and it gives you a happy feeling, but it's also tinged with sadness because you know what's coming now, having seen the full scope of the show, and you're like, oh, I know what's gonna happen to these two, and it's not
That
good.
that can sum up the entire series.
Yep.
Honestly, there's just a bit of sadness because you know what's gonna happen.
Like I like it, but I know what's coming.
Exactly. Connor, any thoughts on this one before we move to the next episode?
No, I really have nothing. You guys pretty much summed up most of my thoughts. I thought
Yeah.
it was pretty good. Nothing too standoutish about the episode besides like
Yeah.
a few moments here and there.
I can kind of agree with you there. It's just, you were like I couldn't tell which one you were shocked that I hadn't seen this one in so long, but I think it's just when I'm
That was it.
rewatching random arcs, I typically just don't go to season 1 most of the time because I just remember that being okay, this is the weaker one. But I don't know. I guess I just missed out on a couple ones here, and this was one of them. But now we can move on to our next episode, which was Shadow of Malevolence. This was directed by Brian Kalin O'Connell, written once again by Stephen Melching. The moral was easy as the path to wisdom for those not blinded by ego. We pick up right where we left off last episode. Anakin leading the mission now. He's leading the briefing, attacking Grievous's forces to take down the Malevolence. There's a great moment where one of the clones calls Grievous the head clanker, which I just loved that. It's
That
again
was
that
good.
Clone War jargon. Another thing that I really liked, which was the name of the Y-wing squad, which was Shadow Squadron. I just thought that's a really dope name. But again, the continued great job that they do at making the Malevolence as threatening as physically possible is just on full display here. Every time they take down a fleet is just terrifying. But we really get in this episode a great showing of the exact opposites of how the Republic and the Separatist leaders treat their troops and how they view them. It's very clearly on display early on in this convo between Dooku and Grievous, where they point out the weakness that the Jedi have of them caring for their clones and viewing them as lives to protect and to lose, whereas Dooku and especially Grievous sees his droid forces as expendable, and we see him destroy various ones throughout this episode. We get a lot of parallels here, which I really enjoyed, of seeing the ideologies of both sides of the war and how the Republic, even though the clones are synthetic beings, they are, or man-made beings, I guess, they are treated as human lives and they are viewed as individuals. And getting to see in this episode lives lost again after we get to know some of these clones was very hard to watch, and we start to care for these clones like they do. Whereas the Separatists, they're just droids. They don't care.
Yeah.
And I
R.I.P.
love moments like
Matchstick.
this. Yeah, god damn it, Matchstick.
Oh, dude. He lived up to his name, sadly.
He
Yeah.
did live up to his name.
Yeah, that was so. Yeah, I wish I had like been the one to notice that. My brother pointed it out to me like during this rewatch, and I was like, damn it, I wish I'd I wish I'd noticed that myself. But yeah, like poor Matchstick.
I keep not noticing this. So first it was the I'm a gonna die, and then this. I just subtlety, not one of not something Star Wars is known for. You can definitely say that.
Yeah,
I mean,
But-
Matchstick is less. I mean, okay, yeah, Matchstick is pretty bad, but like, I'm a gun die.
I'm a
like,
gonna
come
die and Commander Keeley or Captain Keeley, like those are just
on. And
Compli-
Savage Opress.
yeah.
Savage Opress. I cannot wait to get to him.
We'll get to
What
it.
you were saying though? What you were saying though about
General
like about
Loathsome.
what you were saying about the competing ideologies though, it's spot on because like what is the main objective that the Anakin and Shadow Squadron are trying to protect? It's a medical facility, and it's not for war refugees, it's for injured clones. Like they're basically, if you apply Dooku's logic to it, they're basically just protecting a load of product, a load of their like clone stock. But to Anakin and Ahsoka and Plo Koon, they're protecting real people, real lives, like soldiers who have fought in this war and are like undergoing treatment. And by the way, like, was anyone else shocked to see Nala say from the Bad Batch
I
pop up
was
this
Not
freaking early in
expecting
the
it
Clone
this
War?
early. No.
Yeah, like because I saw
forgot
the
she was in Bad Batch. If I'm not gonna lie, actually, no, I didn't forget. I was like, wait, Nala said. I'm like, oh wait, she was also in Bad Batch.
The earliest
Yeah.
I remembered her showing up was the Fives arc in season 6. So seeing her
Yes.
here, I was like, whoa, okay.
That was me as well.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, I see that I see the Kamina one there. It's probably going to be like a random person." And then they said the name, and I was like, "Oh, wow! She's been here since the start. That kind of makes her character more interesting already." And if anything, her being stationed on a medical frigate actually makes like her behavior towards the clones in the later episodes far more interesting.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into. Which
a
I'll
very-
I'll get into
A
more when we
very
get to those
interesting
arcs.
character when we get to her a bit
Yeah.
further down the line. The plan for the Malevolence to bomb the Republic medical station, again, the complete differences between what Dooku and Grievous will do to win a war compared to what the Jedi will do. It's stark contrasts here. We get to see Plo join Anakin and Ahsoka on their mission. We get dope-looking yellow Y-wings, which I was a big fan of. Another thing I was a big fan of, I love the look of Plo's Jedi Starfighter. The design and
Oh, yeah.
everything.
So
Such a cool looking. I need a
It's
Lego set or something of that. Like, that looks...
I checked. They took the color scheme from Anakin's first Jedi Starfighter in the Gennady Tarkovsky Clone Wars series because the first Jedi fighter that he has in that is literally has the same color scheme, the same stripes, and it's
Interesting.
I'm so glad. Yeah, I mean it's very different. It's got like all these little mods on it, like the extra blasters and engines, but it's a really cool design. I'm really glad they lifted it. Also, the Y-wings,
Yeah.
they get a great showing here. Like the
Oh, yeah.
Y-wings are so cool. I love the design because I thought it was a different model of Y-wing when I first watched the show as a teenager. I was like, oh, so this is the first model of Y-wings, and then I kind of realized later down the line, no, it's the same model. They've just stripped it down because it's an antique fighter, which is so cool because like you get to see them in their prime here. But then you also kind of see them late. It gives their like appearance in the original trilogies much greater context because now it kind of informs the whole like worn, stripped down secondhand aesthetic of the Rebel Alliance and how they're using these older starfighters to combat the new kind of like sleek factory produced ships of the Empire. I love that extra like little bit of texture that we get, but also they're just a really cool design, and it's
They're a
cool to
really
see
cool
them like
design. And
face
I
off
love
against the Malevolence.
even seeing like the flight formations and everything. Like, they just did a really good job at animating them. And
Yeah, and they do the call sign thing,
Yeah.
like in the start of A New Hope. That was really
that
cool.
was
I
really
liked that.
cool.
Yeah.
There's great bit of clone dialogue. I don't remember which one of it said it, but it was like, broadside, if we make it through this one, drinks are on me. So I wrote, all right, so they're going to die. Got it. Like, that's just how I come to expect some of these things to happen. Anakin takes the squadron on a shortcut. They end up going on what he calls the Balmora Run, which Plo Koon is like, nope, get the hell out of here. Like, this is bad. Getting Solo vibes here again with the Kessel Run, and they get caught in a giant nest of Nibre mantas, which I loved how cool these things looked. But I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. This is the Star Trek where they got to save the whales. And then it was also reminded me of the Rebels episode.
Yeah,
The Purrgil.
With the Purrgil.
The Purrgil.
Yeah. I guess these could be like an early precursor to the Purrgil. But these were really cool looking creatures, which I liked. But they made a big deal about, oh, this is so dangerous. And then we do see Matchstick's ship get damaged here, but aside from that, they all kind of make it out without a scratch, but eventually it's the precursor to what ends up costing them, was the little ding on Matchstick's ship. One thing that I pointed out about this whole episode, because Anakin is trying to get there to the Malevolence and Obi-Wan is kind of following suit, the episode feels like a race against time to me, which added to the intensity and the stakes that this episode had. We see them run headfirst into the Malevolence, and the ion cannons are launched, and they hit Shadow Squadron because Matchstick's ship just eats it and takes out a couple of the ships. We lose him and Tag, RIP. 2 more clones lost in this fight, and we lose about half. I think they said about half of his ships got caught in the blast, so they're without power, and they're eventually going to get taken out. We really see the heavy hit that Anakin takes in this episode of him losing these men because of his orders, and we really see him like up until really the very end, until Ahsoka gets him to change course. We really see how he takes blame for these clones losing his lives because of his orders and because of his plan. And again, I really loved how, Jedi are, depicted as these emotionless, monk warriors. But we really see that this is a war series first and foremost, and we see the emotional toll that these battles and these losses can take on these characters, which I always really appreciate, and this was no exception. But
I totally agree. Yeah, like Anakin's trajectory in this is interesting as well, because like a lot of his like the whole thing with like trying to like get through that nebula and like take down Grievous, it's all about, there is a degree of ego involved in like, oh, I have to take down Grievous, because yes, he views it as like a responsibility and he has good intentions, but there is like ego getting in the way of that. So like even when like he's losing clones, the men that he does want to protect, he wants to press on because he wants to get rid of Grievous. He wants to be able to like stop the war and like take down a major figurehead, and he has to be kind of talked down from that by Ahsoka, who's like, you can maybe get there, but the other clones can't. You need to be mindful of them, which is, it's a good arc, but it also kind of like reinforces why Ahsoka is good for Anakin, and why Obi-Wan and Yoda kind of like sort of like forced the two of them together, because like they actually wind up helping each other. They're like, it's a different kind of master and apprentice thing, because both of them learn from each other and make the other a better person, a more grounded person, because Ahsoka, through her time spent with Anakin, is able to talk Anakin down when Anakin is like getting away from himself.
Yeah, again, their relationship in these early episodes, I'm really starting to appreciate more and more, especially upon rewatch. Eventually, we see Ahsoka convince Anakin, like you said, to change his plan to where they target the actual ion cannons themselves instead of going after Grievous head on, and we see them end up taking out the cannons, disabling the hyperdrive. We get an "I have a bad feeling about this" from one of the battle droids, which I think was the first one we've gotten since we started watching this, unless I'm mistaken. But I think
I'm pretty sure that's the first.
First I have a bad feeling about this drop. Another thing, maybe just because I've been playing this game recently, but the section with the Y-wings firing off the torpedoes into the ion cannon felt straight out of Lego Skywalker Saga. The space levels. I was
yeah.
I feel like I'm in a
Nice.
Lego game right now, which I loved.
And we got an explosion ring. Like when the
Yeah.
weapon misfires and like cripples the Malevolence,
Oh, that
there's an
was so
explosion
cool
ring.
looking. Again, we talked
I
about
love the
how
explosion ring.
some of the early episodes, the animation is a little, not as good as what we see later on, but little moments like that and the red tint, like I mentioned earlier in the first episode, I just love little stuff like that. We see Obi-Wan coming with the fleet, finishing what Anakin started. We see a brief conversation with Anakin and Nala, but he excuses himself, proud of his victory, but still mourning the losses that his squad took. Which again, I just think it's very powerful seeing the type of general that Anakin is. And like I mentioned, the episode did a really good job at showing the differences between how the Republic and the Separatists view their forces and their men, and the weight that loss has on Anakin. And then the final shot is very much inspired by the last shot of Empire, which again I really liked. It was a nice little nod. They're like, okay, there we go.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
like earlier when I was talking about the scene that I love, the ending sequence that I love, that's the sequence I was talking about.
yeah,
Not the first episode,
not
the
the first
second
episode.
episode.
This one, yeah, I
But
was
yeah,
like, that looks. And then
yeah,
I did my Wikipedia post episode watch, like looking for some like little facts I can put in my notes, and that was one of them. And I'm like, yeah, there we go. There's a lot
yeah.
of that in this arc of little nods to some of the other movies, which we see a lot throughout the show, but I think especially in a lot of these earlier episodes we see that. And there's a big one in next episode, which I cannot wait to get to. But yeah, I think you know what I'm talking about. So this episode I thought was probably my least favorite of the three, but I thought it was a fun one. And it was the exciting middle part from the tense first episode, and then the ultimate climax in the next episode. But it was nice to see more of the Malevolence. I really liked the Y-Wings. I really liked seeing more of Anakin as a general, and seeing how Ahsoka kind of levels him, and is that like voice in his ear that kind of gets him away from his own ego, like you said. It was a really solid episode, and I think it set up nicely to what we see in the last part of the arc. So any last thoughts from you guys before we move to our last episode of the day, or do you think we're good?
Oh, I think we're
I
good.
got
Like
nothing.
yeah,
All right. So our last episode, the third and final part of the arc, is titled Destroy Malevolence. Once again directed by Brian Kalin O'Connell and written by Stephen Melching. Did a great job with this arc. The moral is a plan is only as good as those who see it through. And we start off with the episode. The first thing I have written down is Anakin trying to contact Master Luminara, but she was unable to aid them. And I'm like, that's a tease there. I thought we were getting Luminara, and nope. So, but she does show up later in the episode in a hologram conversation. But again, I've noticed have very mixed feelings on Luminara as a character, kind of like how they do with Mace Windu. But I always like when she shows up, and especially when we see more Barriss later on in the season. I mean, in the series. It's nice to see those other, minor Jedi characters get some more time. But who shows up popping out of hyperspace? It's Padme and C-3PO. And I just love this Padme look. Like this pilot outfit. I've always been a big
yeah,
fan.
yeah. With like the 6 braids tied together,
Yeah.
that's a really cool.
I don't
look for
remember
Padme.
what book it was that had that like art that's used a lot of her now with this outfit on. But I just really like this look whenever it shows up in Clone Wars. I can say that about pretty much every Padme outfit. Like, I'm like, yeah, this is a really good one. Because I think Padme might have, like, the best costumes of any character ever, if I'm being completely honest here. Like, there's not a single one I dislike. But this one in particular, I'm like, okay, I really like this look. And I think there's a similar character model in the Skywalker Saga game. Wait, no, that's the pilot one from Attack of the Clones, but that's another really good one as well. So, again, I just love seeing Padme, but they fly straight into the Malevolence head on, and they're taken as hostage by Grievous. Dooku letting him know that there's a very important senator coming into hyperspace very soon, and they are taken as hostages. We see a great combo between Anakin and Padme over the comlinks, and Anakin does a great job here, and by great I mean terrible job at hiding his feelings here. Whether it be, oh, Padme, like when everyone else is being very formal, or him trying not to lose his shit when it's very clear that she's being pulled in by the tractor beam, and then him just bolting to go and save her. Again, you gotta wonder, how, I mean, it's clear that Obi-Wan knew what was up. But how did everyone else not catch on? Or did they, and they were just, humoring the boy? Like,
I mean, there's certainly some implication on Ahsoka's end that she knew all along.
well,
Come like Series 5.
I just watched this Forces of Destiny short. I don't know where it takes place in the timeline, but she essentially catches them in the act, and at the end says to Padme, like, oh yeah, you two make a really good team. And then Padme kind of gives her a nod. So, like, I think it's very clear that she knows at some point during the series, but I don't know if we're there at this point. There's another moment later on that, again, it's like, you're doing a great job, guys, at hiding this. But again, that's just one of the great things about Anakin's character is his passion, which it's always connected with me, and where that eventually led to his fall to the dark side. There are moments like this where it really showed that in his prime as a Jedi, he was a hero. And we see that a lot in this episode. Anakin and Obi-Wan team up to save Padme. We get another great Plo and Ahsoka line here. There he goes again, craving adventure and excitement. And Ahsoka just goes, oh, you get used to it. And even though it's still very early on in their journey together as Master and Apprentice, you can very much see the bond that Ahsoka and Anakin already have here. And that's just Anakin.
Yeah, this is quite a fun episode. I remember the last time I watched it, I had kind of a mixed reaction to it because I kind of felt like the story was done and then it gets extended for another episode, and they kind of like because I felt initially that Padme's role in the story was a little bit forced, like, she's basically there to be a hostage so we can draw this out for another episode. But then again, watching it back now, I'm like, oh, well, actually, it makes a lot of sense that Palpatine would manipulate her into, like, going to this section of space to get captured, because Palpatine knows about Anakin and Padme's marriage. He knows the whole time. So, of course, he would use that kind of bargaining chip to stop this, like, grand asset, like the Malevolence being destroyed. So I'm kind of like, and also, like, Padme isn't technically a hostage because she gets trapped on the ship, but she's more kind of like she has more of an she has more of an Obi-Wan role. And I've got to say, baller move of Padme to rig her ship to explode to try and take out Grievous. That was really cool.
That led to something that I've been waiting to talk about since we started this show, which is the freaking firefighter droids. Oh yes. My god. This was one of those things when I first saw this episode as a kid, I laughed my ass off, and I've always found this to be the funniest thing. Just the sight of just droids with little firefighter helmets on.
And they colored like firefighters. Well.
Oh my god. Like, I just don't know, like, what was the pitch there? We're just going to have these droids come in and fight fires. Give me a spin-off. Give me a spin-off right now.
Yeah, like George is like, they have little they're like little hats and they have like firefighter colors. Like just, people will get that they're firefighters.
I just like how they just don't do anything, and then just Grievous just pops out of the wreckage there. But again, imagine how things would have changed if Padme just right then and there just took Grievous out. Would have been
Galaxy would be a very different
place.
But lot less battle droids getting smashed up out of anger.
Real quickly, I do want to not counter, but agree with your point of like right near the arc's end, you're throwing Padme in there again. It's very similar to the Clone Wars movie, where Padme just shows up in the last like 20 minutes of the movie to have her plot with Zero. It's very similar to that, which I hope we get less of as the show goes on, is that kind of continuation arc of, okay, now we just got to add Padme in here. What's she up to? But
I actually think it's better executed here, though, because like the problem with the film was that it stopped the plot cold, and you had to kind of like slow the story down in order to
at least
incorporate
here
Zero.
she's directly
Yeah.
involved with what Anakin
Exactly.
and Obi-Wan are doing, and not off to her side doing her own little adventure.
Here it drives the action. It drives a lot of the whole episode, which is different, and also the format. The difference in format with the TV episodes helps a lot, really. So it doesn't feel jarring. You know, it's more like it. If my initial reaction with it, I think, was perhaps influenced by viewing it through the model of binging, really.
Oh yeah,
So
definitely.
because this time around, I think it definitely fits the story more. You know, and I had a lot of fun with this episode, more than I did the last time. Like, there's a lot of slapstick comedy in this, like, you know, whether it's like Obi-Wan using just destroyer droids as like bowling balls
Oh,
to
that
knock
was so cool.
and then like Grievous just like jumping on a train, like these battle droids just like they try and follow him, and they all just like fall to their
I
doom.
can't
And then like
tell
you
you
have
how
Grievous
hard I laughed
jumping
when
across the train.
I can't tell you how hard I laughed with 3PO getting hit by the train. That
Oh,
took me
poor 3PO.
out. But again, this episode is filled to the brim with my favorite thing, which is great Anakin and Obi-Wan banter. A lot of callbacks to the other movies, or with this one at least a call forward. Do you have a plan B? Which I love. And then my favorite one of the whole episode was Obi-Wan going, "Spinning is not flying," and Anakin countering with, "But it's a good
But it's
trick."
a good trick.
The Phantom
Yep.
Menace kid was
Yes, it is.
so happy there. It is a good
Yeah.
trick, Anakin. Thank you for that one.
It is.
And
Can't not mention Grievous saying hello there.
we'll get to that.
Obi-Wan.
We will get
And
to
then-
that. Don't you worry. Oh my
Yeah.
god. So
Yeah.
I just, again, something I didn't realize that Star Wars was filled to the brim with until very recently was how many great train chase scenes that there are in this series. Because we got one here. We, of course, have
Yeah.
the solo train heist and the Book of Boba Fett one. But I ate up this scene. Especially when they find Padme. Anakin catches her. We get the nice catch from Obi-Wan in the background as they're
Yeah.
like all over each other. I'm like, all right, thanks, buddy. And
Yeah.
then we
And
get
everyone just excuses himself, like, "Oh, I'll go find the
I'll
droid."
go
But
find the
like, what he's
droid, you
really
guys-
saying is like, "Yeah, you guys have some private time. I know you want to have like a reunion, so I'll go find the droid."
yeah, we get some great shipping moments here that made my heart soar. And then Obi-Wan trying to catch 3PO, and the poor bastard gets hit by the train. And poor 3PO, but I can't say I was not thoroughly amused by him just getting absolutely taken out. What a beautiful thing. But they catch their Grievous catches their communications, and we see an absolute reverse or a parallel of the Obi-Wan Grievous in Revenge of the Sith. Obi-Wan is surrounded by droids. Grievous pops up, jumps, and we get the "hello there," which, first of all, the fact that this means that Obi-Wan doing this to Grievous in Revenge of the Sith was just Obi-Wan trolling Grievous is just absolutely perfect.
That's just so on brand for
It's
Obi-Wan.
so
to,
on
like,
brand that
take that and-
iconic moment is him being like, "Yeah, I remember that
Yeah.
bastard. I'm doing it to
Yeah.
you now."
Yeah. The thing
just, like,
I
taking it and
also
making it his own.
one of the things I love about the Clone Wars the most is the absolute narrative backflips they do to make sure that Anakin and Grievous do not meet
Yes.
at
Yep.
all
It's the only thing.
before Episode 3.
It's the only
I
thing that's like set in
appreciate
stone that they have to avoid, like messing up. Like everything else, they have leeway. But that's the one thing that they can't do, and it's you're right. It's hilarious. Like there's a moment I think that we'll be able to discuss in the next episode where it's very on the nose that Anakin has to avoid Grievous, so Obi-Wan goes to deal with Grievous instead. It's not like a problem. It's just really funny to
Yeah.
to see them constantly just steer Anakin away from Grievous.
It's the
so
one thing they
don't
gotta keep. Like, Obi-Wan and Grievous fight a bunch of times, even though Obi-Wan looks very surprised that Grievous can fight with lightsabers in Revenge of the Sith. But we can never see those two meet, which I just, again, it's one of the things I love. I liked, no matter how brief it was, I liked this train fight between Obi-Wan and Grievous, and then Obi-Wan escaping, and the little salute he gives him, magnificent.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, like Grievous.
beautiful bastard, you.
Yeah, I love Obi-Wan. He's the best. And also Grievous, literally hopping mad, jumping across the train, just like smashing crates trying to get to Obi-Wan. That was another laugh out loud moment for me. I just love how much slapstick is in this is in this episode. It's really funny.
It ends up leading to another space battle. Grievous escapes on his ship, which is another design. I've always really liked Grievous's ship. He's chasing down after them, and when it looks like they're about to get shot by the... no, it looks like they're about to escape. Anakin has a little moment, and the droid's like, oh, wait, no, the hyperdrive malfunctioned. And they end up crashing into a moon, and Grievous just hangs up on Dooku right there. First of all, the explosion of the Malevolence into the moon, I thought was a really cool visual. And Grievous just saying, nope, I'm not taking this. I'm not dealing with this right now. Hanging up on Grievous and just bolting. Again, Dooku, just kill him. Just like again,
this man's a nuisance.
Gotta
Just get rid of him.
Hold out the plot. He fucked up twice here. Just cut your losses here. But I loved the end of this episode. I thought it was a really fun arc. There are a couple things I wanted to point out that some behind the scenes notes that I got that I thought were very interesting. First of all, the final frame of the episode was the first time that all of the main prequel characters, that being Anakin, Obi-Wan, Padme, 3PO, and R2-D2, were depicted together on screen for the first time. Because all across the prequels, they were scattered across different planets. So this was the first shot that all of them were in the same shot at once. Other
in the Clone Wars, or just in any content?
In anything.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
I remember Dave
shocked
Filoni
me.
talking about it. Yeah, like how he said that this is one. I think this is one of the only times as well that you get them all on screen together during the Clone Wars as well. I think I remember him talking about how important that ending visual was to him, to get on screen. And
they linger on the
cool.
shot too.
Yeah, it's cool seeing them all together.
It was cool.
Again, though, really cool, but tinged with a lot of sadness and heartbreak because you know what's coming.
Now, this one was insane reading this. It says, some ideas from the original script of this episode included Captain Panaka being captured alongside Padme and being brutally murdered by Grievous.
Oh my god.
Now, that one surprised me. So we would have gotten Panaka, which I don't believe he shows up in the Clone Wars, but he was originally pitched to appear and just been killed Shaak Ti style and deleted by Grievous.
If they'd made that series 3 or onwards, he probably would have been there because
he shows up in Leia, Princess of Alderaan.
He does, because he gets, spoiler alert, I think he gets killed in that book. So it eventually happened later on, but that one would have been very interesting if they kept with that. So instead of 3PO, it would have been Panaka, and he would have bit it right there. Which I'm kind of upset that they didn't go along with that. Another thing that was pitched was a lightsaber duel between Grievous and Plo Koon on the exterior of the Malevolence, and the Jedi sneaking aboard the Malevolence by freezing themselves in carbonite to get past the droid bioscans, which we eventually did see in the Citadel arc. It says, while the first two ideas were eventually abandoned completely, the carbonite infiltration maneuver was later adapted into the stories of the Clone Wars Shipyards of Doom, which I think is a Legends novel, and the season 3 episode The Citadel. So they eventually did use that, which I think would have been cool, but we almost got to see Grievous kill Panaka, and I'm kind of upset. But even though I do like his eventual reemergence as a character, as a member of the Imperials, that would have been very interesting, and again would have really added to the wow, this arc is a lot darker than I remember, of if we just saw Grievous just kill him in cold blood right there, because it's brutally murdered is how they worded it. So that would have been something. So it's always fun getting to see these little like behind the scenes things, especially with these early Clone Wars episodes, and I those were some stuff I just wanted to point out real quick because I was shocked reading them, and I needed to bring that to everyone's attention. So out of these 3 episodes, I would say my favorite would probably be Destroy Malevolence. I thought it just had a lot of really fun action. It was a really nice culmination of the arc, and I loved getting to see the prequel characters work together, and of course the reversal of fortune with the Grievous hello there is always classic. And anything with the firefighter droids is automatically my favorite episode. So how about you guys? Which one was your favorite of the arcs that, or the episodes that we talked about this week?
Probably Shadow of Malevolence, because just like the thing I really liked was how Anakin and Ahsoka and Shadow Squadron, they went through that nebula and then destroyed the ion cannon, which was just such an incredible visual. So like that's just a standout moment to me in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, I was gonna say like I was gonna say that Rising Malevolence was my favorite, but thinking about it, I think Shadow of Malevolence might just pip it for the spectacular finish, and also like just the visuals of the nebula, and like just the overall kind of like the overall stakes of it, and how it continues like the themes from the previous episode. So I'll go with Shadow of Malevolence.
All right, so it looks like I'm the lone exception this week, but that's the beauty of watching these shows and absorbing Star Wars, is we all have different opinions, which is the beauty of the show. So next week we are going to be talking about the Domino Squad arc. We talked about the other week that we were pushing Clone Cadets back until this arc because I think it fits better with rookies. So we'll be talking about Clone Cadets and rookies. We're going to get to see some of my favorite clones introduced for the first time, so that will be really fun. And I'm hoping that we'll get our next episode out before Celebration, so we'll be able to do a little bit of a Celebration preview beforehand, and we'll definitely do a Celebration recap afterwards. So it was another really fun time with you guys. You guys, if you want to close out, got anything to plug, go right ahead.
So y'all can follow, if you want to, y'all can find me on Twitter at DepaBanana. I also co-host another Star Wars podcast, the Knights of the Nerd Republic, where we do pretty much news roundup of all the Star Wars interviews, discussions, topic episodes, pretty much everything. That is part of the Nerd Academy podcast, which you can find on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, our website, www.thenerdacademypodcast.com. You can find like our actual episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and pretty much wherever you listen to podcasts. And then you can find me writing articles and stories super slowly at sweditor.ig.com. I work with a very talented and wonderful group of creatives with SWE Fiction. That's going to take some time getting used to. Where we sort of create our own Star Wars stories while also sort of adhering to what Lucasfilm has put out with the Star Wars canon thus far. So we just add to it in our own unique way, and it's really interesting. I have some stories coming out in like a few months or something.
Great stuff. Don, how about you?
You can find me on Twitter at Donovan Mead, where I retweet a lot of stuff, mostly about Star Wars, occasionally political stuff. You can also find me on YouTube under the name Donline Dude. I also have an Instagram, Donovan McComish, and I also am a writer for sweditor.com. Also slowly getting articles out there, like Connor said, and I may quite possibly have a story coming very soon, which is very exciting.
interesting.
And that's all I'll say about that.
All right, you can follow me on Twitter at Starlight Andrew. You can follow the podcast itself on Twitter at For the Repub Pod and on Instagram at For the Republic Pod. That's what happens when Twitter does not have enough characters. I'm going to be posting more articles soon on sweditor.ig.com. Probably once I'm done with this current semester, because I am shocked I even had time to record this podcast. I have so much going on right now. But I got a lot coming in the future, and you can also check out, because I know Connor and Don are both a part of SWE Fiction. They just dropped their new story, Kylo Ren Redeemed in the Redeemable, a couple weeks ago. It's, I believe, their first comic they worked on. You can check that out at sweditor.ig.com. It was a really fun read. I really enjoyed it. So you can check us back here next time. We'll be talking Domino Squad. So as always, for light and life, and may the Force be with you. Always.